Hello and welcome to MLW Confusion. I'm your host Rob Cameron, bringing you all that you may or may not need to know about Major League Wrestling and its television programming. A whole lot of we'll call it mix-up stuff. We got big stuff going on, and it just happened to be all in 1 week. So we're gonna switch things up. This is going to be we'll call it a 2-part episode per se, because we had Summer of the Beast Part 2 come down the line, so we are going to review that eventually. But first, I had a special guest come down into the studio, and so we got to get that out there too. We can't just leave him hanging, man. Had Blazing Jay Lyon of the Main Event come down, chat with me for a bit, talk about training under the Amazing Red, and what it's like to be breaking out on his own, presently speaking. Talk a little bit of nerd stuff. Got some chopped cheese in there as well. So I'm going to save the news for part 2. And for the most part, just gonna do a cheap plug or two and then just jump right into things. Because let's be realistic here, folks. I try to keep it 100. I don't do a whole lot of sugarcoating. I know that's a code word for, jerk. But as a podcast, as someone who listens to podcasts as well, I don't like my podcasts to be too long. I like them to be a nice commute length. And if I feel if I did Summer of the Beasts and the Jay Lyon interview, that would just be entirely too much. And I know you can do it in more than one sitting, but I hate that. So we're going to do that. That's what we're going to do. We're split things up, do the news and Summer of the Beast Part 2 in, part 2 of this episode, and sit down with Jay Lyon today. So before we get to that, of course, we're going to give our plugs for the Raise Energy, all that sort of good stuff. I just want to throw out there that I accidentally got into a partnership with Prince Nana to sell some coffee too. So be sure to check out the link in my descriptor with all the other links in the descriptor that I throw out there. But Prince Nana has some coffee. I'm going to try out his Asian Plateau roast. That should be coming in the mail shortly. And in the process of buying that, all of a sudden I was swerving when I drive and did a dance, and now I have a link. So if you need some coffee, I'm your man now. So go check that out. Link in the descriptor. Prince Nana Coffee. Just stay tuned. We'll take a quick break, hang out with Jay Lyon. It'll be great, I promise. If you're like me, sometimes you need a pick-me-up to get you through the day. I drink Raise Energy for that pickup. Raise comes in a bunch of different flavors, and more recently Italian Ice, which is great, by the way. And it contains no sugar, so there's no crash after you drink it. And really, best of all, if you go through me and go to repressports.com, use my code CASS, you get 15% off your order. So also, be like Cass, drink Raise Energy. Hey everyone, we are back with MLW Confusion. As I said at the top of the show, we had a very special guest sitting in with us today. It is Blazing Jay Lyon. Jay, how are you doing tonight?
Yeah, I'm doing great, man. Doing great, Rob. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. You've been on my radar for a bit and finally just got up the nerves to pull the trigger because I've, not gonna lie, I have not interviewed a lion before. So usually I stick with the humans.
Well, no, I'm glad you reached out, and happy to be here, and happy to answer any questions you or any of the fans may have.
All right. Well, I usually start off, with the tried and true, totally original questions, of course, of, what brought you into the realm of professional wrestling fandom?
Well, fandom, my first time was 2000. Well, actually, no, before that, that was what really drew me in. But my first time was Chris Jericho's debut in WWF. It was the Y2J thing, and I had been hearing about The Rock, and my cousin just forced me to put it on. So I was 5 years old or 6 years old. You know what I mean? Stop playing power. Stop watching Power Rangers and Thomas or whatever. Just put this on for me, kind of deal. I didn't like it. I was like, oh, this is stupid, whatever. But then I don't know. It was something about Rock versus Stone Cold, that whole WrestleMania 17 card. I just stumbled upon it. Like I was about 8 years old. That's why I tell everybody, like, I'm not an Attitude Era baby. I'm a Ruthless Aggression guy. Like that's my era. Like the 2001 obviously is the end of the Attitude Era, but I'm very 2002 to 2008 wrestling fan. Like those are my prime years of fandom. But yeah, I was my mom drew me in with pizza because I was a fat little kid. Loretta's Pizza in the Bronx and in Throgs Neck. Going to her friend's apartment. She was trying to get me to get out of the house because like my dad probably just wanted to sit and watch baseball all day and wanted to make her cook. But we just she brought me to her friend's house and she bribed me with pizza and it worked, and all of a sudden the kid that was there, he was just like really into wrestling, and WrestleMania 17 was on, and like what like everything was kind of like, man, whatever, I'm here for the pizza and I'm just like watching, so I didn't really like care about the Angle Benoit or or like the gimmick battle royal. Like I thought it was all like, all right, whatever. But that ladder match, that TLC ladder match, phew, as a tag team wrestler, man, like that all was gold. And like I said, I was a big Power Ranger fan, so like all the athleticism that was going on in that ladder match just drew me. And what took it home for me was Stone Cold Steve Austin versus The Rock, because it was just like that My Way package, just the music, the like everything. It was sick. It felt so adult to me as an 8-year old. I'm like, wow, you getting away with watching them curse and all this cool stuff. But like, yeah, I was really into it, very into Stone Cold Steve Austin. Even with the entrance, the Disturbed theme song. I wish like Spotify or Apple Music had it, because like I bump it all the time. I just have to go on YouTube to play it, But that's my way into pro wrestling fandom.
No, that's a great starting point because that was really. This will be a controversial opinion, but like I feel like that was the last, like from top to bottom, like great WrestleMania as a whole. Like yes, we've had classic moments since then, but like that was our last big spectacle for the entire event itself.
You think so?
Uh,
I thought that was 19, to be honest with you.
huh,
Like I thought 19 top to bottom was pretty solid. But like I
oh,
said, I'm a ruthless aggression guy, and everybody hates the Booker T Triple H finish, so I
oh
get
yeah,
it.
yeah. Oh no, I did see, like I like one of my more popular social media posts this week was someone asked like what one match could you change to the finish to, and I'm like Triple H, Booker T. But no, but like no, 19 was great too. No complaints on that. And that's the beauty of professional wrestling is that it's an art. Everything's subjective, and I can't complain about ruthless aggression or even the Attitude Era because really, like my formative years was the kind of like the dying days of Hulkamania because I'm old.
Oh,
So like
golden era.
I really hit my stride like around between like 89 and 93 where
Listen, there's some gems in that
oh yeah.
era though. Like I'm talking like I always say Beaver Boys. I know I'm a big tag wrestler, but Beaver Boys is the most underrated tag team of all
Yeah.
time. Like or even Shawn Michaels' work, like and like it was so hard to watch some of that early Monday Night Raw, that like when like cause I've watched as an adult, like watching back, studying, and like I'm like, wow, this is crazy. Like, but was it Bastion Booger? That big dude. Oh my
Yeah.
god, poor guy. Like like, but I feel you though. Like everything is subjective, and that's the beautiful thing. Is like as long as we all respect each other's opinions. Because I respect the hell out of WrestleMania 17 being your be all end all. Like that's a strong card.
Yeah.
I'm just over here like, hey, don't forget about this guy though. Like you know what I
Right.
mean?
Well, and like I'll throw like not that I'm known for my best takes, but then again, like I also throw out like I'm a battle royal guy, so Royal Rumbles every year, like my jam. WCW's World War III, which like I love those things too, and like World War Threes are not known for being good, objectively speaking.
No,
So,
yeah,
but that's how I love my battle royals, huge and
yeah,
clustery. Um, but yeah, so no, that's again like that's great. Like you can't really can't go wrong with Rock and Stone Cold anyway. And then the obviously the TLC launched. I mean they were already kind of right there anyway, but launched the careers of like everybody involved in that. So I
yeah.
that's just one of the greatest of all time. Um, So what pushed you into getting into the business and training?
Honestly, and this might be common for a lot of people, but like I had a really big depression phase after college, where like it's very like existential crisis of like what am I gonna do with my life. Now I kind of I still have it because like I've had a lot of success in pro wrestling, but it's always what's next, and you never get to really enjoy the moment. But even with my success in pro wrestling, like you still have that like do I belong here? But it's a lot more healthy now than like when I was 23 because like I had just got out of college. I did like a semester in grad school and I just like and I did well in grad school. I'm just like this the subject I picked just wasn't for me. Then I had gotten called from an old job up in Albany and I was because that's where I went to school up in SUNY University at Albany, New York. For those who aren't familiar, and yeah, I literally for my wrestling training, I stayed in my friend's couch, my college roommate's couch, up in Albany for 6 months. And I literally traveled, did the wrestlers weekend warrior travels of 3 hours every weekend. Just literally like also losing weight and preparing myself physically, mentally, and just financially because you can't go into this broke. It is a very big for anybody listening wanting to be a pro wrestler. It's a big investment. A lot of schools, that like that's why it's so important choosing the right one because there's some schools out there that just want to take your money. You know what I mean? It's a big money grab. So I did my research for a long time before I started, and even then, I didn't even pick the school I wanted to go to. Like at first, I wanted to go to House of Glory, but I thought it was one of those places you had to be really nasty to be at because they were having these really strong cards when I first came up around like 2016. They were having these really strong cards, and I was like, oh man, like I'll never cut it there. I got to go. I went to some local spot around me in the Bronx called BWF, and ironically, I had some House of Glory guys like that were training there on their off days. So I kind of just went with the pack because I have an athletic background. I played football in high school. I did martial arts my whole life, whether it's jujitsu or karate. So that's why I could do like all these cool like backflips or whispers in the winds or whatever. Because like I do have a little background. Um, but yeah, so like they found me, they loved my hustle, and they pretty much told me Red would like love me. And what stuck to me was I went to the local show, and I feel bad shitting on it, but like it is what it is. Like it's not on the promoter and it's not on the organization. It's on the guys really that like came from that place where it was really really like people didn't really take it seriously there. And I'm not knocking anybody who wants to do this as a hobby. Like I respect it. That's it. Just what that's not how I see it. And there's a lot of guys who like risk their bodies, lives, and careers for professional wrestling. So like I did not want to be in that locker room again, like at all. All I saw was guys, like either coked up or smoked up, and I'm watching, and these guys don't train. I've never seen them train. Like I was there for like a month, and I'm looking around, and I'm like, yo, who the fuck are these cats? You know what I mean? Like, where this guy come from? And then I watched the show, and it's funny because before that, I don't know if you know about this guy named Matt Travis, but he came up out of House of Glory a few years ago. He unfortunately passed away. But he was a very good friend of mine. His last like cool thing he did was like CZW Best of the Best, and like he felt like he was on. We all felt like he was on the up of being like an indie darling really soon because like Brett Lauderdale used him for GCW, and he was about to have a little like impact. Um, how you say like I guess tryout match. So like he was on the up and up, and he unfortunately got taken away from us. I had met him that day of that show, and he pretty much told me like, dude, like don't get in the ring, don't just watch and tell me what you think about this show when it's over. And he was him and my other boy Mantequilla was like 100% correct. Like I did not belong there, and that's not like it's not me being full of myself. It's just this is just not my scene. So immediately the next week, I went to House of Glory and called Brian XL like, "Hey, are you guys taking new students. Okay, cool. With my money in hand, went and like I just kept my head down until like it was my time to shine, and just was a student of the game, open ears, and I was just learning, 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 learning. That's and it's funny because, but when I had my first practice match, it was maybe like 2 months into training, and don't I'm not saying I was like the best, or I still am not the best, or am so far from the professional wrestler I want to be, but I definitely like impressed Red to the point where he remembered who I was. And there were like 40 students, 40 beginner students at the time. I just had one match. He's like, let me try this kid out. Like, I busted out a pop-up flatliner as my finish to my match, and the and I did a heel finish where, because I would always listen and always understand that like a bad guy needs to go over dirty, because he would always complain about how like bad guys are doing 450 splashes. So I was like, okay, so got you, Roger that, and and yeah, then I kind of got in his clique. This is when Red was coming back from getting hurt at the cruiserweight classic, so he took me under his wing, literally like the whole year up until his comeback was just us on a Saturday with this old ROH, not old, sorry, this ROH head OG. His name is Johnny Xavier, for those who know about the like the beginning stages of ROH with like the Low Keys and the Daniels and the Danielsons. John Xavier was like one of the first or second ROH champions. He had a big hand on training me too. Um, Very dope guy. Unfortunately, he passed a few years ago as well. And like they just taught me grit that year, and they taught me how to hustle, and I never looked back.
That's awesome. And I don't know like how I want to phrase this necessarily, but like one of the little things that like I find fascinating when talking to wrestlers and especially about their training is those who had the opportunity to train under, we'll call it like a name or like a well respected um veteran that like had a modicum of fame to them. Like around here, like I talk about Seth Rollins, because from the Quad Cities, Black and Brave Wrestling Academy, Merrick Brave, and
Yes, yes, yes.
Seth Rollins. But like I tell I like asking folks like, what was it like specifically to work under like say Seth? So like in your case, like Amazing Red is considered one of the most innovative high flyers, and like at one point was supposed to be the heir apparent to Rey Mysterio. Like what was it like training under him, and like what set him apart from like some of the other guys that you've gotten to work and train under?
Just the hustle factor is you're like just he's an underdog, right? Like Amazing Red is an underdog in his own right. He's an underground king, but that goes for a lot of like people from New York, right? So like you got guys who came from this area, like you had the SAT, you had Homicide, you had Low Key, um, you know, uh, there might be certain names in that like cluster that I'm like indifferent to, but I respect every single one of them. And especially now, like Santana's definitely that guy, who also like and Ortiz when they were doing their thing together too. Like they're both those guys that like I also got the opportunity to learn under. Like there's Amazing Red, but like Santana and Ortiz wasn't really like training like me and my partner, but like whatever they were doing, we just peeped game and it was working. So like we literally idolized their tag team body of work and emulated it to find success as well in our own little way. You know what I mean? So it's just the learning tree. As long as you're willing to sit under it and listen, like Eddie Kingston's another one too. Like there's just such a wealth of knowledge here, but what makes us all special is that like we are underdogs. Like there is a grit to all of us, because it's really do or die out here. In wrestling too. Like it's mega do or die to the point where if you don't show your ass and show what you got, like you're not gonna make money here, because this New York crowd is very, very honest, and they'll either really be on your side, or they just won't fuck with you at all. You know what I mean? Like and that's what I think makes Amazing Red so special, is teaching you that grit. Like he beat my ass straight up first year. Like I was coming home with like red marks on my chest from chops. Like it was very old school. Like you think you're walking in the House of Glory, you're gonna learn how to high fly, and no, like he's gonna teach you how to sell and how to work and how to wrestle, not how to do all these spots. Like I'm coming in trying to impress him on the top rope on the crash pad, doing moonsaults and trying to do sky twisters, and he doesn't care. He's like, "Yo, but like, can you wrestle though?" And I'm like, "No." He's like, "All right, cool. So like, get back in line." You know what I mean? So and as nice and as humble as Red is, you know, he knows how to bring that dog out of you. So like, I'm forever grateful to him for that. Like he's literally like a father figure in this industry to me. Like I wouldn't have the success I had without him at all, and there's still more to go. Huh?
Oh, I was about to say he sounds closer to like we'll say kinda old school like football coach. Like it's a lot of tough love. I'm going to grind you into the ground, but at the end of the
Oh,
day, you're going to get a you're going to get a butt pat and like good job, kid. You've earned it today.
only if you deserve it,
Right.
for sure. Yeah, for sure. He's like that.
Kind of moving on from training though, like you just rattled off working with a batch of who's who, especially in the New York area. And just side note, like it's really impressive to see just what like Santana's doing, like just betting on himself at that point. But that could be a whole nother another podcast right there.
Yeah, both of
uh
them for sure. Yeah, they're both excellent. I wish like Ortiz a speedy recovery too, because Monkey, he's another one. He always gave good advice, always paid it forward. It sucks for me. Like we never got to wrestle them actually. Like we never got to be in the ring with Santana Ortiz, EYFBO, LAX, whatever version of them. We emulated it, but we never actually wrestled each other, which would have been awesome. I mean, they would have beat our ass completely, like you know what I mean, but whatever. But we would have shown that like we had a lot of fight, and it would be something I think New York would have loved. So I'm hoping one day they could mend fences just for for old time's sake, and we could all just have a dope match for the fans. Like I said, it's never. Well, I didn't say this, but it's never about my dreams anymore and what I want to do and what I want to accomplish in wrestling. Like as a professional wrestler, as a performer, I really care a lot more now about what the fans want and what the fans would like when in terms of like anytime I have any type of control on what I do in the ring or what like I could pitch to whoever I'm working under is always like what's best for the fans.
I'm surprised that you never got to work in some way, shape, or form with Santana and Ortiz, just because just going like in my modicum of research, especially in House of Glory. You and Midas got to wrestle kind of a who's who of tag team wrestling, just in general, like going from the Briscoes to ABC, Chris Bay, and or Ace Austin and Chris Bay, the
Yeah.
colognes, the Motor City Machine Gun. So I'm surprised like that you guys never crossed paths.
Yeah, GYV, Rascals, Bollywood Boys, like
Yeah.
the names go on and on. Freaking Los Hermanos Lee when Dragon Lee was in the Indies too. It's just I think when we were on the up, they were on their way out. So when
That's
we, mhm.
I guess that's fair. Like I'm old. Time means nothing to me, and it's something like AEW's been a thing for do what like five. Is their like 5-year anniversary ish somewhere about there? So,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
I know a lot of guys slow down a lot of like their indie work, especially if they're being featured on TV frequently. But kind of talking about the tag team stuff. Um, how did you get hooked up with you're best known for your tag team, the main event with Midas Black? How did you guys get hooked up together?
Yeah, so Red would do these little like in school tournaments, and what was fun is he made a big deal out of it. So it felt like a big deal. It felt like you had to kill these so that you could be on the radar to get on the House of Glory show. That's what it was like back then. So I wasn't on the tag part. I was in the first tournament that was more like singles heavy. I always want to be a singles wrestler. I'm very very adamant also now about doing more of that. People started question marking it like no, main event's not over. I'm just really really focused on just kind of just evolving. But I will get to that. We were in this tournament. Well, he was in this tournament with his old partner, and his partner at the time had left, like left training. You know, wrestling wasn't really for him. He was going through a lot of like deaths and stuff at the time. You know, that was hitting him and impacting him. So he kind of pieced out, and he kind of asked me, "Hey, you want to take Dave's spot? Maybe we could, do a one night only thing." And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, let's do it. Let's try it. Dibs on the hot tag, like whatever, and yeah, I don't know. The chemistry was just really good. Like we got really innovative, and that's what really like caught my eye. Is like we were just making stuff up, like making moves up, which is very like amazing red. And that's really what I think got us very far as a tag team. Is our whole move set is just like our own. We're not a carbon copy of anyone else. Like the grand finale, like some people may think it's a 3D, but no, I'm turning, spinning, and throwing somebody in the air with the flapjack and sitting down with it while my boy comes and smokes you with an X Factor. Like it's not a 3D. Like you know what I mean? Or like I get thrown on his back, and I at the last minute just arm drag him into a spear, the throwing knife, or the ring of fire, or all these other things we came up with is very fresh and new, and it was inspired by other people, but uh it was never copied. So it was very organic. So we kind of was like, okay, let's start this tag team thing. And I had this lion thing going for me, but I wasn't under the hood, I wasn't under a mask, and I had no personality. um which is funny because like 6 years ago to who I am now is like the difference is night and day. I was very shy, and I still am shy to an extent, but I found my voice in this mask, and who I am, the more like I'm now like, it's not a lot to some people, but I'm like 330 something matches in. So I've definitely found my way into, being comfortable in my own skin. Now with or without the mask too. But I didn't have the mask, so the whole thing was like, all right, well, what can we do together? Because he had no gimmick at all. Like he was like coming up with the most generic shit, and we always laugh at him about it. Like my man went from being Nate the Great, which meant absolutely nothing. Because like, what's so great about you, right? Like at this young stage in your career, or he wanted to be the Dark Devil, Lucifer Black, and that was a whole thing. It was really funny because Brian XL hated it because like House of Glory, the whole reason why it's called Glory is because they're very religious. So glory is glory to God, House of Glory. So it's funny because my man's in the house of God, like I'm the dark devil, Lucifer Black. Then he threw this L up, and we just laugh, like we just laugh all
Well,
the
that means he
time.
should be like the top heel in the company, then,
That's
right?
what he was going for, but no, it wasn't working. Then I like open his eyes. I'm like, man, bro, let's just be good guys, dude. Like there's so many openings for it because I feel like with Bray Wyatt in 2016, there was just this thing where everybody wanted to be this sadistic, demonic bad guy. Then they wanted to do cool shit. I'm like, all right, like who are you? Like what are you? You know what I mean? Like watching it, it's just, but there was just this open lane for like babyface tag teams, and I'm just like, let's just do this, dude. Like it's fun. Being a good guy is fun, you know. Then we came up with this whole circus thing, you know.
And that's really like for me kind of like what caught my eye with you guys originally, because I'm a firm believer of the pageantry of professional wrestling. Like that's like, don't get me wrong, I appreciate a very good match, but like I will appreciate a good match more if I can tell the people apart and be given a reason like why I like or dislike them. And part of that is the characters. um and that was like that the combination of the whole circus theme and your offense, like the tandem offense was amazing, and I will always mark out for something that uses your tag team partner as a weapon. That is like my favorite thing in tag team wrestling, because I'm a terrible person. um but
Yeah.
but that's what like stood out, where like we have a bunch of folks that are just Johnny Wrestle good, and then all of a sudden we have the circus.
Yeah, it's
and the full.
funny. Yeah, because it's like what you said with the partner stuff. I'm sorry to cut you off. Is that like we both use each other as weapons? We got like three moves like that where I'm arm dragging him into something. He's arm dragging me into a cannonball. Like you know what I mean? But I'm sorry. It's just
No,
go ahead.
if you didn't cut me off, I'd probably just keep rattling on incoherently. Uh,
No, no, go ahead. Keep rattling. I talk too much anyway.
but no, like that was the thing, and like that was honestly that was one of the things that like going back in the day, like drew me to the now Seth Rollins, Tyler Black, and then Jimmy Jacobs was before they got all goth on us with the Age of the Fall. You know, they were doing it for her, or and like very much Seth just using Jimmy Jacobs as a weapon, usually against his will. It wasn't a true tandem, but like
When we get
it
off
worked
this
out.
call, you have to send me some of these matches that you really like from this tag team because it seems like you're a big Jimmy Jacobs, Tyler Black guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean I'll put it out there for the ether, anyone who's listening to this, but like anyone, Wrestling Society X is
Mm.
probably the easiest way to like find them at that point. Though I think Ring of Honor, they did some of the stuff in Ring of Honor before the Age of the Fall stuff started as well. But Wrestling Society X was crazy, just in general crazy. And Tyler Black and Jimmy Jacobs kind of rocked off of the like emo phase that was going through pop culture at the time. And Seth was the aggressive, emotional expression, and then Jimmy was the like heartfelt, expressing my emotions, especially love, and just they were an odd couple tag team that worked out enough, and then they like for being like a 1 hour show that lasted like I think it lasted like 6 or 8
10 episodes, right?
weeks. Yeah, something like that, like 10 episodes, and I don't think they aired the last one. But like they had a really interesting, solid tag team division. Again, tied it into tag team wrestling because they had that. They had that '70s team, Joey Ryan and Disco Machine. They had a team Dragon Gate. Um, Joey Chaos Munoz and Aaron Aguilera were a team there as well. And I can't think of what they were called. But yeah, like for having like a 1 hour show and then like having like a 20-minute internet show, like they had this killer tag team division. But yeah, digressing off that point, but that's the thing though, like, yeah, and that's it's making kind of a comeback too. But like tag team wrestling for quite some time, like was kind of like a lost art in and of itself. It was just like two guys that they were looking just to be almost looking for the next Shawn Michaels out of the Rockers. And in the meanwhile, we have the Rock and Roll Express who've been together almost the entirety of the last
I
she's put 50 years now at this point.
I learned so much being in the ring with Ricky Morton and Robert Gibson. Let me tell you, man, that was one of the best days of my life, straight up.
I just talked to Sam Holloway a couple weeks ago, and he's just like hanging out with Ricky Morton is like the epitome of like the best in indie wrestling experience because you just sit under that learning tree, and Ricky will just talk all day,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
Like
he's got the stories to back it up and the experience to make you better in the process.
no, yeah, he's great. No, it's true. He's a gem. Gave me his personal phone number and everything. I never had the balls to use it, but he always gives me a big ass hug every time he sees me, and I appreciate that he even remembers who the fuck I am. To be honest, but yeah, no, it's true. But you know what's funny? I kind of feel like tag team wrestling kind of died a little bit now recently. I'm not gonna lie. It's weird. Because even I feel like there was a resurgence on indie tag team wrestling, and now maybe it's just because I feel like I've wrestled everybody in tag team wrestling that's not on TV, and now I'm kind of just like, huh. So what's next? What's next? Like I really crave that that what's next. Like I said, it's a bad habit, but always looking for the next thing is like a very big thing for me, I guess. But I feel like as a collective, tag team wrestling, there's another level that we all have to hit to just turn it up a notch for it to be like as hot as it once was before AEW went and signed everybody.
I was just gonna say that's fair, because yeah, AEW was originally supposed to be bringing back tag team wrestling, and like it's kind and even within AEW, it's kind of ebbed and flowed. And actually, it's one of the complaints I see. Like, I have a guy who checks out the message boards, and that's one of the things I see being a complaint right now in AEW. Is it seems like a lot of like the tag team stuff has kind of like fallen by the wayside.
Yeah. You know what I think is interesting? I think it's it's the problem with bookers and promoters, and I talk about this with singles wrestling as well. Is I don't feel like tag teams know how to create a lane for themselves outside of title matches, and like I haven't seen blood feuds that are tag team, like tag team heavy. Besides like the bloodline, that's the perfect example. Like the bloodline when they were doing the Civil War stuff, that was beautiful because the storytelling they were doing didn't involve it was about the world title and the head of the table stuff, but it didn't involve the tag team titles. Neither set. And I think that's a challenge that a lot of different types of wrestlers faces, like for women's wrestling, tag team wrestling, Latinos in wrestling, blacks in wrestling, is like, who are you when you're not chasing the belt? And that's an interesting concept because everybody's so like obsessed with world titles, and I just think like Bret Hart said in an interview recently that he'd rather like have one world title, and maybe like that one world title will mean more, because I just feel like even Ruthless Aggression, there was every both brands had their four titles, but there were also stories outside of those titles. So I think if there were more stories outside of tag team wrestling, that's again, it's a whole nother thing where like promoters also have to be very, very like they have to open the pocketbook too. You know what I mean? To also say, hey, well, like let's bring in these guys. Let's do a story with these guys, because it's hard to do stories in independent wrestling because you're just going from town to town, and it's not like a direct TV product.
Right. And it's hard to maintain, like, depending on the how often that company runs, it's really, yeah, it's hard to maintain like that momentum. Like, it's one of the things like I've complained about, I've kind of complained about with, I mean, I'll throw it under the bus since this is primarily an MLW podcast, but like MLW now only doing like one or two larger events a month. Like, it's hard to maintain a momentum and tell a story that moves at a decent pace, just
Mhm.
because you have the event, and now you got to sit, maybe 2 weeks, but maybe another month before the next beat of that particular story comes by. And yeah, that just the time frame alone makes things difficult to like really tell a coherent story in that many steps that far apart with that much time available
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah, and I also, this is a big call out, right? Like I love my time at MLW. Like I'm not like, I we get called, and it's an honor anytime they call me to be a part. Like I just did their Summer Beast event. Got to wrestle CW and Brock Anderson, a little 5 minute thing. But my thing with MLW too is you gotta allow time for people to cook. Like sometimes a lot of the matches are really short, and you're not really given that opportunity to just like let the gas, um, you know, pull the brakes and just hit the gas and hit the pedal like people would want you to, because it's TV. But yeah, I think there's that, and there's also the fact that like they don't really have creative tag teams. Everything seems like a remix of something old. And I feel like Main Event is the only tag team that's not repurposed. Like I don't care what anybody says. Our time there is like we were probably like us, and maybe Second Gear Crew is like the most not MLW or not WWE, not AEW created, where like they had to rehash a team. Like they rehashed Samoan SWAT. They brought back the SATs. They're bringing back Brock, and they're bringing back the Andersons with like CW having a tag partner. Like I'm not saying that these are bad things. Like even this was a little weird for me. Was like them trying to redo LAX. You know what I mean, with two guys. It just, some of the stuff is just a little like, all right, we saw it. Like the fans saw this, and then it doesn't last for 8 months, for more than 8 months. Like I literally challenge any tag team to be there for more than a year,
Yeah.
for real. Like that's on the tag team too. Like for them to challenge whoever the tag team champs are, for them to challenge, like management and be like, hey, like let's make this meaningful. It's not just on management. Everybody wants to be like, well, Court Bauer this and MSO that. Like, no, it's on the whoever holds that belt. It's their responsibility. Like I remember when Lance Anoa'i and Juicy were holding the belts. They were very much adamant about trying to make like the tag division mean something, which for a short time it looked like it was going in that direction. You know.
No, I agree. Cause like they for like when you guys first came in, like they look like they look like granted they were all rehab for the most part outside of you guys, and then eventually Wasted Youth. But like they started building kind of a tag team division with it, and I will oh, I wasn't always the biggest fan of the reconstituted or this constitution of the SAT, but like at least they were going they seemed to be going out there every week and having matches with somebody. Like yes, it didn't necessarily help the rest of the division and their stories, but at least they were putting the titles on and tag team wrestling in the forefront, which I thought was refreshing. And then of course they had again they actually started building kind of a division with well, a reconstituted FBI. Like no slag against Nunzio, Guido's great. Ray Jazz is no slouch in the ring, in my humble opinion. But again, we're just rehashing what Guido or Nunzio, whatever we're going to call him, has been doing for the last 30 years. But and they brought in Second Gear Crew, who's been doing, comparatively speaking, doing something different. But I'm, because this is me, I'm also just going to slander Manders and be like they're a terrible tag team anyway. But that's just me being stupid. But like but they brought you guys in, they brought in Wasted Youth, and there's kind of this transitional period where again they had 5150 LAX, whatever we're going to call them this week, and the Von Erichs in, and like so like we had like a lot of motion in there, and then yeah, they just kind of
Yeah, it's crazy
dropped
because
everything.
the Von Erichs and 5150 totally like and whoever Tankman was tagging with
Oh yeah, EJ and
um
Duca.
yeah, EJ, all of them was wiped before we got there. Like completely, like it was just us and SST. Then they brought in like certain people, like you know, what I mean, it's crazy. Like they literally just wiped clean everything. Like that's why I'm just like, man, I just wish that, and I hope they're still open to us, to me and my partner as a tag, just like trying to put stories because man, they really had what is it, WTF, just like they screwed my boy out last December, man. Like they just put him in this bodybuilding contest and shamed him, and that was the last we ever
Yeah.
saw of him.
Yeah. Well, and like, no offense intended to Love Doug, but like, I just thought it was like random that they brought you and Love Doug together.
Yeah, it's, you
Like,
know what it is.
like,
It's because my partner lives in Florida now, so it's hard
oh,
for him to come up like often enough, and
okay.
is and he's he's being a good dad down there, so like respect him, and he got to do what he got to do for his family. So
Coming
like
up on a Thursday too. Like
it's
that's
very difficult. Yeah, yeah, it's very difficult. So like I said, it's just me. I'm still main event, but I'm journeying into this singles world and trying to figure out who I am. Myself.
well. While we're in it, like, let's talk about your current singles run then. Like, what are like you, as you put it, you're going out and kind of finding yourself. Like, what are what are your kind of, I guess we'll call it short term goals. Like, what are you trying to do to kind of like show the world who you are as a singles?
I definitely want to, like, I'm definitely differentiating a difference. So like I'm very into my New York culture as well. So and New York is a subculture just like anything else. And I was born and raised here and I'm proud of it. So like there's things about New York, like we have our own Philly cheesesteak, it's called the chopped cheese. I don't know if you ever heard of it, but it's like the best fucking sandwich ever. I don't care what anybody says, man. So like I remember like anybody in this city, and I hope somehow it started bleeding out little by little, like in New England and like in Philly. But like they start chanting chopped cheese like when I come around because A, they know it's my favorite sandwich, and B, the real story behind that is that when we wrestled the Bollywood Boys when Hog made his comeback, like the people who make these chopped cheeses are Muslim, like from Yemen. So it was actually a little racist and the crowd was getting a little crazy, and they were making fun of like the Bollywood boys, even though they're Punjabi, like they're Indian, so they were completely wrong. Like, but just because they were brown, they're like, "Yo, Aki, make me a chopped cheese," like yo, like bring me something from the bodega type shit. You know what I mean? And I laughed, and I'm like, "Ah, nah, man, like this is real bad." And then all of a sudden, I hear chopped cheese, boom, boom, chopped cheese, boom, boom, and I'm just like, "Oh man, I gotta make this like way better than what it is." So I started saying I'm gonna eat them like chopped cheese, and I had the whole other, half of the, or three quarters of the arena thinking that I'm saying this about them, and that I created this chopped cheese chant. So yeah, so then the next show, I come out and I'm getting these chopped cheese chants, and then it keeps elevating and elevating. I'm like, man, I gotta put this on a shirt. I put it on a shirt, and like now every time, like I'm home in New York, like that's what they chant. Anytime I do a chop, like I have this thing where I do these strikes. I'll chop one, I'll punch the other one in the face, like cheese, bop, chop, cheese, chop, cheese, and they'll come up with me, and it's really great. Um, I'm telling you, if anybody like feels like they want to know more about like what I'm like wrestling, or me and my partner are like purely like as individuals, you have to watch us in House of Glory. That's like the most freedom we get to be our actual true selves, and we're just having the time of our lives. Um, but yeah, so now with this singles run, like my instead of blazing Jay Lyon, I'm the Bodega Beast. That's who I am. Like that's my thing. Purely New York, gritty, like kind of like my it's just kind of like my all Japan side, you know what I mean? Because I'm a little Japanese wrestling mark too myself, like and I love old school ROH, like Samoa Joe was like, also even like Jeff Cobb. Like I have this like '98 Taz in me that I gotta unleash, that I didn't like, and it's not to anybody's fault. It's just there are limitations in tag team wrestling, and I feel like my tag team wrestling, it was about like my cohesion with my partner. And when you do that, you give up a part of yourself, and it's selfless, but it's a whole beautiful creative thing that you created. Like it's awesome. Like I have so much fun doing tag team wrestling, and that's where I think it's the beauty of it, is like I could be this tag team wrestler, and me in the singles capacity is a completely different guy.
And I think that makes you a more well-rounded wrestler just as a whole, or anyone in this situation. I mean, it also makes you a good utility player as well, because that should like will help guarantee you a spot on the on any card. Like if there's an opening, like hey, like I planned on having we planned on having a tag team match, but Tommy Tommy canceled at the last minute. Well, we can like Jay knows what he's doing. Let's like he can at least sub in for one night, or the
Yeah,
other
brother. Scramble, tag wrestling, 6-man tag, singles, triple threat. I love just like I just like mixing it up because it's a different. It makes it different, makes it fresh. You know.
now. Oh, and like given your location, like if you're up in the New York area, there's a lot of like even like we'll say with like within the companies and their specialties, like you have a lot of stuff like that you can pop up on that's available to you, just stylistic wise, whether it's like say House of Glory, or wandering down to say like just hypothetically like Enjoy Wrestling, or go further into like New England and hit up Grind. Like they're all
Or
just
I
a
love
wee bit
grind.
different.
Yeah.
Like they're one like I need to watch more of. Like I catch just random events just because well I live in I call it Iowa,
Yeah.
yeah, right on the Mississippi. Right on the Mississippi. It's half
That
half a country away from me.
that's
Uh,
another spot that like me and my partner, we got to really just be ourselves there, and we put on quality tag team wrestling like that. Pulaski's my building, man. Like that's my fan base. Like I feel like I have three homes in wrestling, maybe four because Melrose too. Is definitely like Hog, also Beyond Wrestling. That was a big, big, big I did so much of my growing in Beyond Wrestling and Wrestling Open, that like the White Eagle's my home, and so is the Pulaski with Pro Wrestling Grind. Like I please, anybody listening, check out Pro Wrestling Grind. Like clip this for the for the YouTube, for the Twitter. Like Um, Delmi Exo and Rib Bison are doing an incredible job up there, and it's pure wrestling. At its finest. Like you get a good mix, but it just feels so like I don't know. There's a different vibe in there. It's more serious. It's very serious, but it's fun at the same time.
I
You know.
compare it. I like personally like I compare it to uh like some of the Japanese promotions. So All Japan and New Japan. I mean,
Yes.
it's not a carbon copy, but it's very much focused on hard hitting athleticism.
Yes.
Like,
A
yes,
hundred percent.
there's still the gimmicks in it, but like, and people are having a good time. But like, in the end of the day, like like it does come off like a very much like an athletic contest.
Yeah. If you want to be a member of the pro wrestling grind locker room, you better hit fucking hard. That's all I gotta say. As a member myself of that locker room, like I had a singles match there back in like July. And yo, like I wrestled Yoya, and yeah, we fucked each other up, man. It was some shit. Uh, but yeah, no, like it's very like you better go up there and bang if you want to wrestle in that locker room for real. It's a hidden gem of New England, certainly.
Yeah. No, I'm a fan of it, and it's one of those like there's almost so much wrestling I can watch, or I'm quasi allowed. Okay, I don't want to say I'm allowed to watch, but my wife gets disgruntled if I spend all day watching wrestling. Uh,
Dude, anybody's man. I feel you. I have to like just in life in general, I have to like balance baseball, basketball, pro wrestling. I don't even and MMA. Like I don't even. I barely touch MMA and football anymore. Like it's just all about basketball and baseball for me. Some
but
Puerto Rican shit, I know, but whatever.
hey, you got to be proud. Like, you
Yeah,
sit here and you talk about New York and the boroughs, and I just think I'm going to do a shout out to Rob Chef, because even though he got out of New York, he is still very much New York now. Even though now he's hanging out down in Florida, but he's very much like in the Bronx. We did this. This is what you did. and,
brother,
like,
it's true. I'm from the Bronx, so I
and
feel you, dog.
yeah,
Like
and I'm just sitting here like, dude, I grew up in the cornfields. like, like I'll take your word for it.
mm-hmm.
but but yeah, that was it is what it is. But yeah, but anyone out there, check out Grind. Like it's good work, and like that's no offense intended to Delmy when I had her on the show. Like that was my biggest takeaway, despite how briefly we talked about it. It was like, I am going to check out Grind. Like it's on IWTV, so like I have that subscription. So like yeah, I'll throw it on, and I was thoroughly impressed.
Check that shit out, Rob. All right, get
Right
a
on.
chopped cheese while you eat it too. All right.
I say we'll have to switch it up because I think, well, I don't know when because we don't plan our meals that good, but like we talked about having cheesesteaks sometime a time this week, and we're going to switch things up and try to be healthy and put it in a pepper. So
Oh yeah,
we'll make a whole thing. We'll make a whole thing of it. So we'll have a chopped cheese stuffed pepper and check out Grind.
yeah, dude. Chopped cheese and a Philly cheesesteak. They're very different sandwiches, man. Look that one up and try it in your bell pepper. It's really just a cheeseburger chopped up with certain different spices, but it's bomb, honestly, man.
Eh, I feel like I think that's very much a variation of the regional thing. So then, like over here, we have the made rights, which less cheese based, but it's yeah, it's mostly just spices and a chopped up hamburger, and maybe if you're feeling extra spicy with it, throw in some onions in the mix and some
That's
hot
yeah.
mustard.
Sounds like a chopped cheese to me without the mustard. I was just like a mayo ketchup kind of deal, but it's pretty bomb.
But yeah, so kind of like winding things down and kind of like book ending, you branching out the singles. So what is, we'll say, what is the short-term goal and what is the long-term goal?
Short term goal is I want some singles gold. I want to find a spot where like I could really test my metal. You know what I mean? And in an awesome place too. I'm not talking about like a little shindy like around the Bronx or whatever. Like I'm talking about like in a reputable place. Because I want to be a great tag team wrestler, but I even Cody Rhodes said it in an interview. Like, I love tag team wrestling, but I came in professional wrestling to be the WWE champion, and that could be 20 years from me now. It could never happen, and that's all right. But that still should be my goal, is to be the WWE champion.
And
If you don't want to be the top dog in this business, like, and people like getting settled because it's easier to feel better and to enjoy it and to peel back. But like, to be the best, you gotta be a dog. You gotta be a beast. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to like light that candle. Because like I feel like this year, like I had some stuff go on in my personal life, some losses, a lot of losses, and it's time to like relight that fire and just get back to who like I am, like in that sense. So I want some singles gold, but I also, I want to be in certain tournaments. Like, I see myself being one day in best of the best, or what I mean, like maybe the ECWA Super 8. I mean, it's, some people say it's not as prestigious, but we won the tag team Super 8, the only one that ever happened. And also, my trainer was in both of those, in both of those tournaments, so it would mean a lot to me to be in that, in one of those two, or even having my first American Rana with Beyond Wrestling, maybe doing the Vacation Land Cup one day. Like, I definitely have these goals that I wanted to touch always by myself, that I'm like, wow, this would be cool if I could be involved in this. And maybe I just got to write them down and write my own little personal list of stuff that I want to check out for 2025. But it's definitely a singles title is on that list, or at least looking like a contender, because you could shoot up to the moon and you'll still land in a star. So as long as I'm seen as a contender, and like I said, being able to do stuff that adds to the show, and it doesn't even have to be title based. You know what I mean? Is good by me too. But I want that strap. You know what I mean?
yeah, as you put it, ultimately, the way to prove that you are the best in any promotion or in professional wrestling is to have the world championship, whether it's at a, we'll call it a regional level with say like your Beyonds, your Grinds, or WWE, AEW, or even say IW in New Japan IWGP.
Yeah,
Uh,
word. That's a Super Junior too, Super J Cup. I just gotta lose some weight, man. I got too heavy, But but
Well, I
yeah,
mean, if it's any consolation, like being able to see you move like you do as a big dude is amazing. So,
thank you, man. Thank you
you know, if nothing else, you got yourself a nice little niche to work with.
for sure. Yeah.
But so we wind it out here. Finish things out. Like, where can we find you on the internet, and
Um.
where can we get merch?
So it's on X and Instagram, Blazin underscore. That's BLAZIN underscore LYON. And in both those, there I should have a link tree with main event merch. So please support. We need some money. Times are hard. Feed this lion. You know what I mean? But no, but appreciate anybody who gives us a follow. My partner, ringleader, I'm sorry, not ringleader, ringmaster Midas is also on Instagram and Twitter. So please give him a follow as well. And yeah, and check us out, House of Glory the 29th in New York, um, October 19th. And probably some cool dates coming up really soon, whether it's GCW or Grind, a bunch of other indies that it's too many to drop. We like check our cage match. We've done so much. Thank God, thank God, for that.
Well, keep an eye on the socials, and that way, whenever you drop them, we'll be the whatever number it is to know, but at least we'll know about it.
Yes, sir.
But Jay, it was a pleasure having you on. Thank you much. Like, it was great.
Heck yeah, heck yeah. Thank you for having me, man. Appreciate it.
MLW Confusion is a weekly podcast that is written and performed by Rob Kammer and hosted by Spotify for podcasters. MLW Confusion is part of the Urban Wrestling Network, and you can check them out and check out the Major League Pod on YouTube at Urban Wrestling NW. The background music for this section is Ruined by Day, performed by Alan Schroeder. If you enjoyed this podcast and would like to support, please like, subscribe, and tell your friends, family, and enemies. Leaving a review is also helpful. Word of mouth of advertisement is very important for small podcasts such as this. Social media links can be found in the description, but Twitter and Instagram are at the Nova of Cass, TheNovaofCass, and Facebook is at MLW Confusion, all one word. If you'd like to support monetarily and help upgrade my equipment, please check out my virtual chip jar at ko-fi.com/Casanova, or if you prefer more bang for your buck, you can go to patreon.com/Casanova, CASSONOVA, whereas for as little as $2, backers get access to the podcast early and without those pesky ads, plus other exclusive content. So join the crew that is headed up by Keith Wynn, Alan Schroeder, Alex McCarthy, and Elenia, and check it out. You can also find t-shirts, coffee mugs, and other merch at the Confusion Podcast on Teespring. Also, be sure to check out the description to find some affiliate links for, well, WWE merch, coffee machines, ice makers, and much more. For business inquiries such as ads and sponsorships, please email rzkamer, that's Kamerer, at comcast.net. Thank you for listening.